Tom and Liza thought they'd found heaven on earth when they first drove through the entrance of Oakwood Estates. The neighborhood had those big houses with perfect front yards, colorful flower beds that changed with the seasons, and streets so clean you could practically eat off them. Kids rode bikes without worry, neighbors waved from their porches, and everything just felt right. "This is it," Tom had whispered to Liza as they followed the real estate agent down Maple Avenue. "I can see us growing old here." Liza squeezed his hand in agreement, but something in her eyes held back just a little. After 15 years working undercover for the CIA, she'd developed a sixth sense about places that seemed too perfect. Still, she pushed those thoughts aside. This move was supposed to be their fresh start, a chance for her to maintain her cover job as a government consultant while Tom worked from home as a software engineer. The day they moved in, neighbors showed up with homemade pies and casseroles. An older couple from across the street brought over a bottle of wine, while the family next door offered to help carry boxes. It felt like something from an old TV show, the kind of community feeling that most people thought didn't exist anymore. Just 3 days after settling in, someone knocked on their door. A tall man in a crisp polo shirt introduced himself as Pete, the head of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. He handed over a thick welcome packet with a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just some basic information about our community standards," Pete explained, tapping the folder. "We pride ourselves on keeping Oakwood Estates the most desirable neighborhood in the county. That doesn't happen by accident." Later that night, Tom flipped through the packet while Liza unpacked kitchen boxes. "Holy cow, look at these fees," he said, whistling, "and check out some of these rules. No trash cans visible from the street, approved paint colors only, no parking on the street overnight." There's like 50 pages of this stuff. Liza glanced over his shoulder, frowning at the documents. The HOA had official-looking letterhead, a professional website listed at the bottom, and what appeared to be proper legal language throughout. Nothing obviously suspicious, but something about it made her professional instincts tingle. "I guess that's the price for all this perfection," she said, gesturing toward their picture window that overlooked the immaculate community park. During their first month, they focused on unpacking and settling in. Tom set up his home office in the spare bedroom, while Liza established her cover routine, leaving each morning for her government consulting job. Their neighbors seemed friendly enough, though conversations rarely went deeper than weather and local restaurants. What neither of them noticed at first were the patterns. The landscaping crew that seemed to work on different houses every day, but never actually finished any major projects. The security patrol that drove through at oddly specific times, always slowing down near certain homes. The neighborhood newsletter that asked for strangely detailed information about residents' work schedules and travel plans. It wasn't until they received their first month's HOA bill that Tom really started paying attention. The amount was nearly double what they'd initially been quoted, with vague fees for infrastructure improvements and security enhancements added on. "This can't be right," Tom muttered as he compared the figures to their initial paperwork. Meanwhile, Liza had spotted 2 men in maintenance uniforms photographing houses on their street, including detailed shots of security keypads and window layouts. To anyone else, they might have looked like they were documenting property issues. To someone with Lisa's training, they looked like they were casing homes. Neither Tom nor Liza knew it yet, but they hadn't just moved into a neighborhood with a strict HOA. They'd walked straight into an elaborate trap set by people who were experts at making terrible things look perfectly normal from the outside. 3 months flew by in Oakwood Estates. Tom and Liza had settled into a routine, but something kept nagging at Tom. The HOA fees had gone up again, with another vague notice about community improvements that nobody could actually point to when he asked about them. One evening, while paying bills at the kitchen table, Tom pulled out a calculator and started adding numbers. "This doesn't make any sense," he said, spinning his laptop around to show Liza. "I checked online. Riverdale Heights down the road charges their homeowners $175 monthly. Pennycrest Acres charges $200. We're paying $450, and it keeps going up." Liza looked up from her book. "Maybe our neighborhood has more amenities." "That's what I thought at first," Tom replied, "but I drove through those other places yesterday. They have nicer pools than we do, and Riverdale has a tennis court we don't even have. The next day, Tom called the county records office. The clerk on the phone sounded confused. Oakwood Estates? Let me check again. No, sir, we don't have any registered HOA by that name. Are you sure about the spelling? That night at the monthly community meeting in the clubhouse, Tom raised his hand while Pete, the HOA president, was discussing plans to repaint the community mailboxes for the third time that year. I've been looking at our expenses, Tom said when called on, his voice echoing in the suddenly quiet room. Our fees are twice what neighboring communities charge. Can we see a detailed breakdown of where the money goes? Pete's friendly smile stayed fixed in place, but his eyes turned cold. We provide financial summaries quarterly. If you have specific concerns, you can submit them in writing to the board. A woman named Judy nodded enthusiastically. The board does such a wonderful job. I moved from a neighborhood with a cheap HOA, and believe me, you get what you pay for. Tom noticed 3 other residents who seemed ready to speak up suddenly falling silent, exchanging glances before staring at their laps. Meanwhile, Lisa had been conducting her own quiet investigation. Her years in intelligence had taught her to spot patterns others missed. The maintenance workers who never seemed to finish projects always appeared when certain residents weren't home. The security patrol increased when higher-income families traveled. And last week, she'd caught someone photographing their mail before it was delivered. Walking home after the meeting, Tom was still fuming. Did you see how they shut me down? And those people who looked like they wanted to speak up, it was like they were scared. Lisa squeezed his hand. I need to show you something, she said quietly. Back at home, she pulled out her phone and showed Tom photos she'd taken over the past weeks. The same 2 men in different uniforms, sometimes landscapers, sometimes security, once even posing as package delivery. They're watching us, she said, not just us, specific houses. They take photos of security systems, note when people leave for work, track patterns. Tom stared at the images. You think they're burglars using the HOA as cover? I think it's bigger than that, Lisa replied. The whole operation feels too organized. The next morning, Tom found a letter in their mailbox. It detailed 6 violations of community guidelines, including unapproved garden plants and excessive street parking by guests. The total fines came to $1,200. That same day, Lisa noticed a car she didn't recognize parked across from their house. The driver pretended to look at his phone whenever she glanced his way, but she could tell he was watching their home. Over dinner, Tom showed Lisa an email from 3 other homeowners who had reached out privately after the meeting. All had received similar violation notices after questioning fees or HOA decisions in the past. We're not dealing with some power-hungry neighborhood committee, Tom said, his voice low. This is something else entirely. Lisa nodded, choosing her words carefully. Her CIA training was screaming warnings, but she couldn't reveal her background to Tom. Not yet. Whatever it is, she replied, we need to be careful. These people aren't just taking our money, they're watching us. And I don't think they'll like us looking back. The next few weeks turned into a quiet war between Tom and the HOA. After finding those ridiculous fines in his mailbox, he started reaching out to more neighbors. At first, most were hesitant to talk, changing the subject or making excuses to end conversations quickly. But Tom was stubborn, and eventually he found allies. They charged me $500 because my Christmas lights stayed up 2 days past their deadline last year, whispered Nancy, an elderly woman from 3 doors down. They were talking behind the community pool shed where the security cameras didn't reach. My husband was in the hospital. When I explained, they said rules don't have exceptions. Another neighbor, Raj, admitted he'd been tracking his own concerns. My brother's an actual HOA manager in California. When I showed him our fee structure, he laughed and said someone was running a scam. Then last month, someone broke into my garage and only took my financial documents. Tom created a private group chat for concerned homeowners. By the end of the week, 15 families had joined. They shared stories, compared violation notices, and realized the pattern. Anyone who questioned Pete or the board quickly became a target. At home, Tom was hunched over his laptop when Lisa walked in from work. "You need to see this," he said, pointing at his screen. I did some digging. Pete's real name is Paul Dixon. 5 years ago, he ran a similar setup in a neighborhood about 50 miles from here, then disappeared when people started asking questions. Lisa felt a chill run through her. This matched patterns she'd seen in professional scam operations, not amateur con artists. What about the other board members? "Working on it," Tom said. "But get this, I called the company that supposedly handles our neighborhood landscaping." They've never heard of Oakwood Estates. Lisa nodded, then froze as headlights swept across their living room window. A car was parked outside their house, the same one she'd spotted watching them earlier that week. "Close the curtains," she said quietly. That night, their home phone rang at 3:17 a.m. When Tom answered, groggily, there was just breathing on the other end, then a click. In the morning, they found their mailbox had been pried open. 2 days later, Tom's car had a flat tire, with a neat puncture that couldn't possibly be accidental. When he got it fixed, the mechanic found another puncture in a different tire. "They're sending a message," Lisa said as they sat in their kitchen with the blinds drawn. "They know we're organizing. They want us scared." Tom ran his hands through his hair. "I'm not backing down. We're planning to confront the board at next week's meeting. 20 homeowners have promised to show up and demand answers." Lisa touched his arm. "Tom, I don't think you understand who we're dealing with. These aren't just neighborhood bullies." "Then what? What could they possibly be after besides money?" Lisa hesitated. Her training told her to keep her cover intact, but her instincts said Tom needed to know at least part of the truth. "I think they're gathering information. All those photographs, the way they track schedules and monitor which houses have security systems, they're building profiles." "For what? Burglaries?" "Maybe something worse," Lisa said. "Have you noticed they pay special attention to certain houses? The Wilsons, who run that investment firm. The Pattles with their tech company. And us after they found out I work for the government." The next day, Tom received an email from the HOA board threatening a property line for unpaid fines. The same day, one of the neighbors who'd been most vocal in their group chat called to say he was backing out. Someone had left photos of his children walking to school on his front porch with no message attached. That evening, as Lisa pulled into their driveway, she noticed a van parked down the street with tinted windows. Instead of going inside, she drove past their house and around the block, noting the license plate. When she ran it through her work database the next day, it came back registered to a shell company with connections to private military contractors. At that moment, she knew this wasn't just about money anymore. Whatever was happening in Oakwood Estates had just become much more dangerous. Tom had never been so nervous about a work trip in his life. His company needed him in Chicago for 3 days to help launch a new software project. Any other time, he would have been excited about the opportunity, but now his stomach twisted at the thought of leaving Lisa alone. "I can cancel," he said for the 3rd time as he packed his suitcase. "They'll understand." Lisa shook her head. "Go. If you cancel suddenly, it'll draw more attention. We need to act normal." What she didn't say was that his absence might actually help her investigate further without having to hide her methods from him. "I've asked Raj to drive by the house a few times while I'm gone," Tom said, zipping his bag closed. "And Mrs. Chen across the street promised to keep an eye out too." The morning Tom left, Lisa walked him to his car and kissed him goodbye like any normal wife would. She waved as he drove away, keeping the smile on her face until he turned the corner. Then she went back inside and opened the hidden compartment in her jewelry box, removing a small device that looked like a regular phone but wasn't. For the first time since moving to Oakwood Estates, she activated her emergency protocol, sending a coded message to her handler at the CIA. She didn't request backup, not yet, but she flagged the situation as a potential security threat. Then she began preparing for what her instincts told her was coming. That evening, Lisa ordered takeout and made sure the delivery driver came to the door where neighbors could see. She turned lights on and off in different rooms throughout the evening, creating the impression of normal activity. She even played music and laughed loudly while on a fake phone call, making it sound like she was having a girls' night in. At 11:30 p.m., she turned off all the lights except the bedroom lamp, which she left on with the TV flickering, visible through the curtain gap. Then she quietly moved to the guest room, where she had already prepared a sleeping bag in a closet, out of sight of any windows. Lisa didn't expect them to come that first night, and they didn't, nor the second. But on the third night, the night before Tom was due home, she heard it, the almost imperceptible sound of someone disabling the back door alarm. Her heart pounded, but her hands remained steady. This wasn't her first dangerous situation. She eased out of the closet and moved silently to her pre-planned position behind the guest room door, where she had a view of the hallway through a crack. The intruders were professionals. 4 men in dark clothing with faces covered, moving with the coordinated precision of military training. They carried zip ties, duct tape, and what looked like a syringe. Not burglars, kidnappers. They split up efficiently, 2 heading for the master bedroom where the lights still glowed, 1 checking the kitchen and living room, 1 moving toward the guest rooms. Lisa had seconds to decide. Running wasn't an option. Calling for help would come too late. As the men approached the guest room, she calculated her odds against 4 trained operatives. Not good, but not impossible. The door began to open. Lisa held her breath. The man stepped in, sweeping his flashlight across the empty room. In the split second before he turned toward the closet, Lisa moved. Her first strike hit his throat, cutting off any chance to alert the others. As he staggered backward, she grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back while simultaneously relieving him of his weapon. A knee to the back of his leg brought him down silently. 1 down, 3 to go. From somewhere in the house came a confused call. Bedrooms empty. Check the bathrooms. Lisa knew her advantage of surprise wouldn't last. Moving quickly, she used the zip ties from the man's own pocket to secure him, stuffed a cloth in his mouth, and took his radio earpiece. Through it, she heard another man say, "Something's wrong. Pavison isn't responding." Lisa slipped into the hallway just as one of the men emerged from the master bedroom. Their eyes met for a frozen second before training kicked in for both of them. He reached for his weapon. She was already moving. The fight was quick and brutal. Lisa took a hard hit to her ribs, but managed to knock the man unconscious against the wall. The noise, however, alerted the others. Lisa grabbed both men's phones before rushing to the kitchen and out the back door, just as the remaining 2 intruders converged on her position. Outside, she triggered the house's fire alarm with her remote access before disappearing into the neighbor's yard. 3 streets over, hidden in a drainage ditch, she examined the phones she'd taken. These weren't random criminals. The last messages on one phone confirmed her worst fears. These were professional mercenaries, hired through a dark web contract, specifically ordered to abduct the government consultant from 1347 Oakwood Drive. And they'd been hired by someone connected to the fake HOA. When Tom's plane landed the next morning, he had 17 missed calls. Some from neighbors about a fire alarm at his house, some from the local police, and none from Lisa. His hands shook as he tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. By the time his taxi pulled up to their neighborhood, police cars lined the street. An officer stopped him at the edge of his property. "This is my house," Tom said, his voice cracking. "My wife, is she?" The officer's face softened. "We haven't found anyone inside, sir." Neighbors reported an alarm around midnight, then saw flashlights moving through the house. Signs of a struggle, but no blood. Tom felt like he might throw up. All he could think was that he shouldn't have left. He'd known something was wrong with this neighborhood from the beginning, and now Lisa was gone. As police questioned him in his torn-up living room, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Library. Historical section. 1 hour. Come alone." Tom slipped away as soon as the police finished with him. He drove to the public library downtown, heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his ears. The historical section was in the back corner of the 3rd floor, quiet, with tall shelves creating private nooks. He almost didn't recognize Lisa. She wore glasses, a baseball cap, and clothes he'd never seen before. Her face was bruised on one side. "Oh my God," he whispered, rushing toward her. "Don't," she said quietly, raising a hand to stop him from hugging her. "We might be watched. Sit down like you're just looking at books." Tom's mind raced with questions. "The police, your face, what happened? Who were they?" Lisa pulled a book from the shelf, pretending to show him something in it. "I need you to listen carefully," she said, her voice low and steady. I haven't been completely honest with you. I don't work in government consulting. I'm CIA. Deep cover operations. Tom stared at her, waiting for her to say she was joking. She didn't. The men who broke in were professionals, mercenaries. They were sent to kidnap me, but I don't think they knew exactly who I was or who I work for. Kidnap. Tom felt the floor shift under him. Because of our HOA complaints. It's bigger than that. Lisa flipped pages in the book, still maintaining their cover. The fake HOA isn't just a scam. It's part of an operation targeting specific people in wealthy neighborhoods across the country. They create these fake associations, gather information, then identify high-value targets for different criminal enterprises. But why you? We're not rich. My government connection. They probably thought I had access to sensitive information or that someone would pay a hefty ransom to get me back. She didn't add that they were right on both counts. Tom ran his hands through his hair. So what now? We go to the police? FBI? I've already activated my emergency protocol. A CIA response team is investigating the connection between the fake HOA and a network we've been tracking for months. But I need to move carefully. This could connect to something much bigger. She pulled out one of the phones she'd taken from the intruders. Look at this. She showed him a message chain that mentioned 2 other neighborhoods with similar operations. There are people in danger right now, she said. The response team is moving on those locations, but we need more evidence to connect everything. Tom felt like he'd wandered into someone else's life. His software engineer brain struggled to process that his wife of 5 years was actually a CIA operative and that their HOA problems had turned into some kind of international crime thriller. All this time, he started. I wanted to tell you, Lisa said, finally meeting his eyes. But it would have put you in danger. It's my job to keep secrets, even from the people I love. Tom was quiet for a long moment. What can I do to help? That's the thing, Lisa said, closing the book. You already have been helping. Those neighbors you organized, the information you gathered, it's given us a map of their operation. But now I need you to do something harder. What's that? I need you to go back home and act normal. Act scared about your missing wife. Let the police do their investigation. Don't tell anyone you've seen me. While you do what? Lisa's eyes hardened in a way he'd never seen before. While I help take down the people who thought they could use our neighborhood as their hunting ground. As they prepared to leave separately, Tom asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Are you really the person I married? Or was that all an act too? Lisa paused, vulnerability finally showing through her professional exterior. The job is real. The secrets are real. But so is what I feel for you. That's why I'd fought so hard last night. I wasn't just protecting an agent. I was protecting our life together. Going back to their empty house was one of the hardest things Tom had ever done. Police tape still crossed their back door. Broken picture frames lay on the floor, including their wedding photo. Tom picked it up, studying Lisa's face like he might find clues to this stranger he'd been married to for 5 years. When the doorbell rang, he nearly jumped out of his skin. It was Detective Rivera from the local police. Any word from your wife? She asked, notepad ready. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the half-cleaned mess. Nothing, Tom said, the lie tasting bitter. I've called everyone we know. The detective nodded sympathetically. We're doing everything we can. Mind if I ask a few more questions? For the next hour, Tom walked a tightrope between truth and fiction. Yes, they'd had trouble with the HOA. No, Lisa had never mentioned feeling personally threatened. Yes, her government consulting job sometimes involved sensitive information. After Detective Rivera left, promising to keep him updated, Tom collapsed on the couch. His phone pinged with messages from concerned neighbors. The same neighbors who might be working with the criminals. Who could he trust now? Meanwhile, in a secure hotel room across town, Lisa sat surrounded by photos, documents, and computer screens. She wasn't alone anymore. 3 other CIA operatives had joined her, turning the suite into a temporary command center. The phone you grabbed was a goldmine, said Agent Chen, scrolling through data. We've identified 6 other neighborhoods under their control, properties in 3 states. And their endgame? Lisa asked, studying a map where red pins marked target locations. It's multi-layered, replied Agent Wilson, a veteran analyst with salt and pepper hair. The HOA fees are just the surface. They're gathering intelligence on high-value targets for various criminal enterprises, kidnapping wealthy residents for ransom, identity theft, even blackmail when they discover compromising information. The scale is what's impressive, added Agent Doyle, the youngest of the team. We estimate they've pulled in over $12 million in the past 18 months, not counting ransoms. Lisa pointed to a photo of Pete, the fake HOA president. And him? What do we know? Real name Paul Desmond, ex-military intelligence turned private contractor. He disappeared from the grid 5 years ago after being implicated in an extortion scheme in Europe. Wilson handed her a file. He's just the public face. The real boss is this man. The photo showed an expensively dressed man with cold eyes and a practiced smile. Raymond Vance, Wilson continued, financial crimes specialist. We've had him on our watch list for years, but he's careful. Uses Q-tips for everything. Never touches the dirty work himself. Lisa nodded. And he's connected to all 6 neighborhoods. Property records show companies he controls purchased the first homes in each community. They establish themselves, create the fake HOA, then slowly take control. Your neighborhood was their newest operation. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text from Tom. Pete and 2 board members at my door right now. Offering sympathy about you. Creepy as hell. She texted back, play along. Act broken. We need 24 more hours. Lisa turned to her team. We need to move faster. My husband is there with those people right now. Back at the house, Tom was living through the most surreal experience of his life. The 3 people he now knew were criminals sat in his living room, making sympathetic noises about his missing wife. Just terrible, Pete said, shaking his head. The police have any leads? Nothing solid, Tom replied, trying to look devastated rather than furious. They think she might have been targeted because of her government job. Such dangerous times we live in, said Brenda, the HOA treasurer who Tom now suspected wasn't named Brenda at all. If there's anything the community can do. Actually, Tom said, seizing an opportunity, I found something weird in our security camera footage from 2 nights ago. Before the break-in, maybe you could help me understand it. He pulled up a video on his laptop, a carefully edited version of actual footage Lisa had given him at the library. It showed a van similar to the one the kidnappers used, driving slowly past their house. I noticed the same van near the Wilsons' house last month, right before their break-in, Tom said innocently. Isn't that strange? The 3 exchanged quick glances. Tom pretended not to notice, but he saw Pete's jaw tighten. Security cameras, the 3rd visitor muttered. Didn't check for external ones. What was that? Tom asked. Nothing, Pete smiled tightly. Mind if I get a copy of that footage? For the Neighborhood Watch program. Sure, Tom said. I'll email it to you. Along with some other suspicious activity I've been documenting. You know, for safety. After they left, Tom texted Lisa. They took the bait. Now they know I have evidence. Her response was immediate. Lock every door. Don't be alone tonight. Have neighbors you trust stay over. Tom called Raj and his wife, who arrived 30 minutes later with overnight bags. Neither of them knew the full truth, but both had been eager to help after Tom told them he'd received threats following Lisa's disappearance. As night fell, the pieces of an elaborate trap were falling into place, one that would either catch a dangerous criminal network or put Tom directly in their crosshairs. The plan came together faster than anyone expected. By dawn, unmarked vehicles were positioned throughout Oakwood Estates. Agents posing as delivery drivers, joggers, and landscapers took their places. Lisa, now wearing tactical gear instead of her usual business clothes, watched the neighborhood through binoculars from a command van 2 blocks away. All teams in position, crackled a voice through her earpiece. Target residence is showing activity. Lisa checked her watch, 6:17 a.m. Early, but not surprisingly so. Pete and his crew would want to deal with Tom before the neighborhood woke up. Remember, we need them to make a move, she reminded the team. We can't just arrest them for being fake HOA officials. We need evidence of the larger operation. Inside the house, Tom hadn't slept. Neither had Raj and his wife, who sat nervously in the guest room with baseball bats they'd probably never use. Tom's phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. Movement at Pete's house. 3 men loading something into a van. Stay alert. Tom's mouth went dry. This was really happening. The plan had seemed solid last night when Lisa explained it. Use himself as bait, get the criminals to make a move, let the CIA and FBI teams waiting outside handle the rest. Now, alone in his kitchen waiting for dangerous men to come after him, it felt much less brilliant. The doorbell rang at 6:32 a.m. Tom checked the security camera on his phone. Pete stood on his porch, alone, smiling pleasantly. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Remember to keep him talking, Lisa's voice said in the tiny earpiece she'd given him. We need him to incriminate himself. Tom opened the door, making sure the special pen in his pocket, actually a recording device, was working. Pete, it's early, he said, feigning surprise. Sorry about that, Pete replied with the same neighborly smile he always wore. Emergency HOA matter. May I come in? Tom stepped aside, letting him enter. What kind of emergency happens at 6:30 in the morning? Pete glanced around the living room. Your security footage. I was reviewing it and had some concerns about what you might have misinterpreted. Misinterpreted? Tom repeated, following the script Lisa had prepared. You mean the van that was watching my house before men broke in and my wife disappeared? Pete's smile tightened. That's exactly what I mean. I think you're connecting dots that aren't there, Tom. Grief can do that to a person. Grief? Is that what you think I'm feeling? Tom stepped closer. Let me tell you what I'm feeling, Pete, or should I call you Paul Desmond? Pete's face changed instantly, the friendly neighbor mask vanishing. His hand moved toward his jacket pocket. I wouldn't, Tom said quickly. This house is surrounded by federal agents right now. Pete froze, eyes darting to the windows. You're bluffing. Am I? Tell me about Raymond Vance. Tell me about the other 5 neighborhoods you've targeted. Tell me why you sent men to kidnap my wife. Outside, Lisa tensed as she listened through Tom's wire. This wasn't the plan. He was supposed to play dumb, not confront Pete directly. Teams Alpha and Bravo, prepare to move in, she ordered. Inside, Pete had regained his composure, a cold smile replacing his shock. Smart man. Smarter than we gave you credit for, but not smart enough. He pulled out his phone. You see, while we're having this pleasant chat, 2 of my associates are with your neighbors. What were their names? Raj and his lovely wife. Such a shame about the home invasion in their house this morning. Tom's blood ran cold. You're lying. Am I? Perhaps you should check on them. Tom hesitated, then backed toward the hallway, keeping his eyes on Pete. He could hear Lisa in his earpiece urgently directing teams to check on Raj's house. He pushed open the guest room door. Empty. Don't worry, they're fine for now, Pete said, following him. Just insurance to make sure you and I can leave together, nice and quiet. You have something we want, all that evidence you've gathered. And we have something you want, your friend's continued good health. The agents outside won't do anything as long as I'm with you and my men are with your friends. Pete motioned toward the back door. Shall we? What happened next unfolded in seconds. The back door burst open, but it wasn't Pete's men, it was Lisa leading a tactical team. At the same moment, the front door crashed in. Pete lunged for Tom, grabbing him as a shield, a gun appearing in his hand. Back off, or he's dead. Lisa didn't hesitate. Her shot hit Pete's shoulder, spinning him away from Tom. Before he could recover, 2 agents had him pinned to the floor. Raj? Tom asked desperately. Safe, Lisa assured him, touching his arm. It was a bluff. They never left the house. Later that morning, as various agencies processed arrested suspects and gathered evidence from houses throughout the neighborhood, Tom and Lisa sat on their front porch steps, watching the activity. 8 arrests here, 15 more across the other neighborhoods, Lisa explained, including Raymond Vance, caught trying to board a private plane. So it's over? Tom asked, still trying to process everything. This operation is. There will always be others. She looked at him carefully. You know we can't stay here, right? Once my cover's blown in an area. Tom nodded slowly. So what happens now? To us, I mean. Lisa took his hand. That depends. How do you feel about starting over? New house, new town. But this time, with the real me, no more secrets. The real you being a secret agent who takes down international criminals. That's going to take some getting used to. Is that a yes? Tom looked around at the neighborhood that had seemed so perfect once. One condition, no more homeowners associations, real or fake. 6 months later, they were settled in a small town 3 states away. New names, new jobs, Tom still in tech, Lisa officially retired from government work, though she still consulted on special cases. That house had no HOA, just friendly neighbors who minded their own business. Sometimes at night, Tom would wake up and watch Lisa sleeping beside him, still amazed at how someone could have so many layers, so many sides he was just beginning to discover. And sometimes Lisa would catch him looking and smile, knowing she no longer had to hide who she really was. They had survived the fake HOA and its mercenaries. They had started fresh. And now, for the first time in her career, Lisa's cover story and her real life were finally the same thing.